Well, there are lots of signs and symptoms, and I ran off a bunch because there are so many, because different people present in different ways. But sadness, of course, and being despondent is one or two of the things that are really big. Many people who are depressed have a sense of helplessness, hopelessness. They may have changes in the way they interact in relationships. They may begin to isolate, kind of shut down, pull back from everybody. They may not have any interest in going to church or to movie with a friend or out to dinner. Those kinds of things become unimportant to them. They have less energy, typically. Sometimes you'll find that they're not taking care of themselves in the same way, not bathing or dressing, or for women doing their hair and putting on makeup is a huge sign of depression. So it's just that persistent sadness, a little anxiety, neglect. It begins to affect every part of what you do. It begins to affect the way a teenager goes to school, the way they do their work, the way an adult does their work in their office. They may find they can't concentrate, they're having a lot of missed days. So it's just one of those things. It has to do with our feelings, our behavior, and our interpersonal relationships. And when all of those begin to be affected, then you need some treatment. It's not just a case of the blues.
I myself wanted to stop and to really make changes, because it was always being forced upon me. You know, it was always like, okay, you're going to stop now, and I never wanted to. And I never realized how I was hurting myself. Like, I thought I was helping myself, and people were just being, you know, over dramatic.
Of course, with children, you often do what we call play therapy, and they will act out, they will do in their play what they're feeling sometimes. Teenagers can talk a little more. It's harder for them. They don't trust adults. They're at a developmental stage where their job is to pull away from adults, and then you ask them to come in and confide something. So you have to be very patient with them, but there are people who specialize in children and teens, and they know how to do that.
I feel that I'm a human being, that nobody is perfect, that everyone gets sad and gets upset, and that's part of life, that's part of being human. And I know now that I don't need to rely on other things to make things okay anymore, and that it's better to deal with bad issues right then and there, instead of shoving it back in the deepest part of yourself and doing drugs just to forget, and then 2 or 3 years later you finally think about it again and it comes to the surface, and it's 10 times harder to deal with it than it would have been if you just would have dealt with it right then.
Adults and elderly, usually what is very helpful to them is having someone who will sit with them and really listen without interrupting, without saying, well, you shouldn't feel that way, you know, but just to hear them. Many times if people have a safe place to be heard, they can begin to hear themselves, and they can begin to look at options. And so it's just a matter of helping them. Many times when people get depressed, the feeling they have and the way they talk is that their life is bad. Well, at some point, if you've listened long enough, you earn the right to say, what if that's not true? You know, what's good in your life? So you have to change the way, help people change the way they think. We also have to look at how they behave. If they're behaving in a way that's causing them problems, then I think what I hear that Dr. Phil asks is, how's that working for you? You know, so at some point you have to begin to be aware that the way you're behaving is causing you problems, and if you would behave differently. So there's an adjustment in the way they think and the way they behave. And we just help people begin to sort of, it's like a ball of yarn, and you kind of have to unravel it. And you begin, and they begin to see patterns. But I think anyone of any age needs a place where they feel really safe, not judged, and they feel heard. There is a support group, a local support group called the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, I believe it's called. And they have support groups all over the city, not only for, well, actually all over the state. And they have a website, and they provide support groups for people who have bipolar or are depressed, but also for family members, because family members need to understand what's going on and how to help and what they're doing that's not helping. And so there's a lot of help out there, and people who are very depressed or into bipolar need medication. And so as a marriage and family therapist, I work closely with psychiatrists, and we will get somebody in to see a psychiatrist, and they understand what kind of antidepressant or what kind of medication is needed, and so we work together. But with medication and talk therapy, people can come out of it and have a good life. Well, there's so much help online right now. People can go online and there'll be self-tests. Check off this list, and if you answer to so many, it indicates that you might want to talk to somebody. The National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, N-A-M-I, is a very active group here in our state, and they offer workshops and speakers. There's a lot of help there. The State Department of Mental Health, the Oklahoma Mental Health Association. There's just all sorts of resources for people. So there isn't any reason with the online access that we have now to not be able to find what you need. Teenagers, children often start with school counselors. That's a good place to start. If they need more help than that, they can refer them out into the community. Pastors, youth ministers often are somebody that's the first person they go to. But there's psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors all over the state, and help is there. We just often somebody needs to go with them, open that door for them to show them where to go.